If something is worth doing, it's worth doing well. So don't waste your time if you're not going to do it well. Like, apply yourself and really put your all into it. And he's
Don't
really done
have
that.
to.
No.
We're joined by a leader whose journey blends legacy, grit, and innovation. Nicholas Benjamin is the Deputy Executive Chairman of the Guardsman Group, one of the Caribbean's most respected conglomerates in security and business services, and Managing Director of Marksman Limited.
You can't just be nice to people and say your business is going to be successful, right? You have to do a lot of things. You have to be fair. It has to be a company whose values are consistent with the people that you want to work there. I think our future is bright using technology to integrate. And there's no...
Not replace.
Not replace. Because there's no system that is perfect, first of all. And there's no solution that is great using just people or just technology.
Though born into a legacy of leadership, Nicholas carved his own path, starting from the ground up. His story is one of humility, hard work, and a deep commitment to excellence, proving that leadership isn't inherited, it's earned. Hi, Nicholas.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us today on this episode of Proven Pulse. Really, really happy to have you here and to hear from you, right? So let's get into it, right? Tell me a little bit about your first memories of Guardsman, about the company, your family business.
Well, first memories, a long time ago. So Guardsman is older than I am, first of all.
Yes.
So for as long as I've been here, there's been Guardsman in some way, shape, or form. Actually, my first memories of Guardsman are not of Guardsman. It's of a guy named Bradley Campbell, who still works at Guardsman. He's been here 40-something years now.
Yeah.
My dad liked motorcycles, and he was the motorcycle bearer. And because he was such an early employee, company was a lot smaller. He was a lot closer with the early people. And I just remember him coming up to the house on the weekends to ride his bike and hang out with whoever was at the house. And, I didn't think anything of it at the time. It was just a guy who was at my house. And then as I got a little bit older and started realizing who he was and what he did, I guess that would qualify as my first memory of Guardsman without even knowing it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay.
So we just celebrated the 48th anniversary of Guardsman last week, and he was there at the cake cutting. He was the one who cut the cake with Chairman, because he is one of the earliest employees.
Cool. So that would say that you guys put a lot of emphasis on employee loyalty, and just you're saying this gentleman years ago is still with you. What sort of philosophy do you guys have at Guardsman, and you yourself, in terms of how you lead your people and deal with your people?
Yeah, well, I think for us, if I had to, give credit to any one thing for the success of Guardsman over the years, it's the relationship that we've traditionally had with our own staff.
Okay.
We are in the service industry, in various segments within the service industry, but we don't manufacture, right? We don't own a factory somewhere. And the best way to be a quality service provider is to be a quality employer.
Absolutely.
And your staff, respect the company, like the company, want to work hard for the company. And that only comes by the company doing right by them first. Then you can expect it in return. And that was a real pillar of our foundation. That was something that goes back as long as Guardsman has been around, is, the people who work here, we want them to feel proud of the company. We want them to be happy at the company. And we think that's a recipe for success. And it always has been.
And it's worked for you.
I would say so, yeah.
Okay. So I know you're now in the role of deputy chairman and you're the CEO of Marksman, right? But I know you didn't start off in that role at Guardsman. Tell me a little bit about your journey.
It's long. But I mean, as a kid, I had summer jobs at the various companies growing up. One of my first ones that I can remember is what was then Guardsman Alarms, fixing radios. I thought I was fixing them. No, looking back, I'm sure
You weren't.
I wasn't fixing them, but somebody was fixing them and I was there. So, once I got to a certain age, whenever I was home on holiday from school or something, it was, let's say, encouraged that I go get a summer job.
Was it encouraged or mandated?
I will stick with encouraged. Strongly encouraged.
Strongly
Strongly
encouraged.
encouraged.
Okay.
Um, but then when as you can imagine, those jobs got a little more serious as I got older and older.
Right.
And then when I finished college, I went to Marksman and I started as a trainee manager. That was my first official role. But,
Mhm.
Before that, there were tons of unofficial roles. I mean, definitely had to clean out a couple dog kennels in my time
Okay.
to understand what it was.
So you
Actually, before I went to Marksman, I started at Nature's Paradise, which is a landscaping company that we own.
right.
And that was, just to get my feet wet in the wider business. So it's not part of our core security business, but it's still a business that we're very proud of. So I started there, and then I went from there to Marksman Limited as a trainee manager. As part of that program, spent time in each department in the company, in each branch across the island, and learned what it is that we did and how we did it and why we did it. And that gave me a real solid fundamental understanding of our business, the business of security. And from there, let's see if I can remember all the steps. From there, I was an assistant area manager for what we call Area 2, which was downtown Kingston. So not so much the residential side of things, but more the commercial side, factories, airport, warehousing, that kind of thing. And from there, I went to Ocherius for 6 months to live, and I was the operations manager for Ocherius.
Okay.
And then I went back to school in Australia for a year and a half. And I tell you, Australia is a great place. I really liked it. I like the people. I like everything, the weather, the atmosphere, the culture. I like that it was far away. It was really nice.
We're gonna ask you more questions
Yeah.
about that.
That's fine.
Go on.
And I studied management. So my
Okay.
degree is in management. So, directly related to what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting through my classes and I couldn't help but relate everything I was learning to Guardsman and to my experience at Guardsman. So I would learn about, a management principle, whatever, pick one. And I would say, how could we use that at Guardsman? Or why don't we use that at Guardsman? So I felt myself, although I was enjoying myself over there, certainly the subject matter that I was learning, I kept wanting to apply it to Guardsman. So that's when I realized, boy, this is something I really want to do.
You want to do.
Yeah.
Okay, not just that you have to do.
No, I never felt, and my parents were always very clear with me. I don't have to do this.
Okay.
They don't want to force anything on me. I can if I want to.
Okay.
But if I want to do something else, I should go do something else.
And they were fine with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Tell me a little bit about when you talk about like you in the role of trainee. How did you integrate as the son of Kenny Benjamin with the other staff members as you worked your way up the company?
Well, I think what was important was for me to demonstrate and for them to understand that I was here to learn.
Okay.
I'm not here to try and pretend like I'm in any position of authority or that I know better than these people who have been doing it their whole lives. I'm here to learn from them. And I was always very receptive to what they had to teach me. I would like to think so anyway. I hope they would agree that I was receptive to the lessons. But and I think once we came to understand each other and became a little more comfortable with each individual and collective interaction, I really was there to learn. And I really did want to have a solid understanding. I was actually quite scared of, overstepping and, acting like I knew something that I didn't really know, because I would have found that pretty embarrassing.
Yeah.
So if anything, I was too cautious.
Okay.
I would like to think. And I think once they believed that I was here to learn from them, it flowed pretty naturally after that.
It flowed pretty naturally. And some of these people know they're reporting into you.
Yeah.
And but you have that respect. You've earned it, you think.
I mean, that's for them to say, to be honest.
Okay.
I hope I have earned their respect, and that's the terminology that I would use, is earn. I don't think that they should respect me because of who my dad is,
Or what your last name is.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Why was Australia good? Because it was far away.
So my dad had a principle that once I got to a certain age, I had two options. I could go to school or I could work. I got to choose. He was quite happy to pay for as much schooling as I wanted to do as long as I was doing well. But if I didn't want to go to school, I had to start working. And I'd always had this idea that I wanted to go to Australia. I wanted to go somewhere far away that, maybe later in life you get to visit for a week or two. But when was I going to have the chance to live in a place like Australia for a year and a half? Really, the best option I thought was to go to school there. So I combined, that I wanted to go back to school, finish my degree, and I wanted to go to Australia. So did the two of them at once, and I think it worked out quite well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you got to experience something that you probably wouldn't experience once you've settled down
Correct.
into whatever it is you chose for your life.
Correct.
And then you got to choose one of the options from your dad.
Correct. And that was a big part of it. Was it's probably the only time I'll get that opportunity to go somewhere like Australia. It wasn't the only place, but it was where I really wanted to go. Probably wouldn't get that opportunity again. And I was here for 3 years before I left, and I knew that, to kind of simplify it, if I didn't leave soon, I wasn't going to leave again. So I wanted to do it while I could, and I'm glad I did. Very happy I did.
Tell me something. If not Guardsman, what would it have been? What would option B have been?
I honestly, I have no idea. I think because I realized at a relatively young age, like still in college, that this is what I wanted to do, and I liked it and I enjoyed it, and I would like to think I wasn't too bad at it, that I never really thought about what else I would do. I mean, I certainly had hobbies that I enjoyed doing and still do, and they say, boy, if you can turn a hobby into a business, then you're never really working, are you? But I never put any serious thought to what I'd be doing if
What
not
hobbies?
for Guardsman. So I'll start with the one that I don't actually do, but I keep wanting to do.
Yes.
Is woodworking. I, for some reason, I always like the idea of carpentry. I like
Okay.
tools. I want to learn how to do it. I can't do it now. I'm not pretending to be a woodworker, but I mean, I get into odd little hobbies. Right now, I've sharpened knives. I learned to tie knots. Various weird things
No,
like that.
no, this is interesting. We're
So-
getting to know Nicholas, okay?
Yeah.
But nothing that you would have said, "Oh, I'm going to change career. I'm not going to go down this path."
No, and again, because I knew relatively early on that this is what I wanted to do, I never had any reason to give serious thought to what I would do if it wasn't Guardsman. And I never really explored it.
Okay.
But then again, I don't know how to commercialize a knife sharpening hobby, right? I don't think there's much to be made there. So
But the important thing is that you really wanted to do this. So tell me, how was it for you watching your dad navigate just being an entrepreneur? As you said, the business started before you were born, and just seeing how he, grew it, expanded. What were some of the lessons that you took away in being there with him on this journey?
well, he's certainly an inspiration to myself and a lot of people. I mean, he has a really interesting story that not a lot of people know. I mean, he came to Jamaica as a teenager by himself.
By himself?
Yeah, yeah. You hear different versions of the story, but that's what it comes back to. He came here as a teenager by himself, with no plan to stay here. He got here and he liked it, and he said, "I think I'll stay here." And he really is the definition and the embodiment of an entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, he's constantly going from one thing to another to another to another, and I think part of what makes him so successful in all of what he does is that something he said to me when I was in school. He said, "Look, if something is worth doing, it's worth doing well. So don't
My mom said that to me.
don't waste your time if you're not gonna do it well. Like apply yourself and really put your all into it." And he's
Don't
really done
half
that.
do.
No,
Don't have to.
And I think that made a huge impact on the standard of Guardsman in the early days when it was much smaller and he was much more involved. That his standards are up here,
High.
and you're expected to meet those standards. And But he's applied that, he's gone into more ventures than we could keep track of over the years. But all of them, whether it was the zoo or Puerto Rico or any of the other businesses that he started, he's applied that same mentality. Is if it's worth doing well. And certainly that's something I've learned from him. Um, and observing him maintain that standard in whatever he does, to me, as long as we're doing that, doesn't really matter what else we're doing. We could go into any business, any hobby, anything that we want to do as
And do it
individuals.
well.
Just do it well. And
Just do it well.
it
Just have
really,
that standard of excellence.
yeah, creates a lot of possibilities for you in whatever you're doing. And that's definitely the one takeaway that I've had.
Okay. All right. So I'm seeing that you're basically transitioning into that role to hopefully take over at some point. How are you going to put the Nicholas philosophy spin? So you have a business, it's a legacy business, it's in an industry that could be categorized somewhat as pretty rigid, or you have many businesses, I would say, but your core business, which is the security services, in you driving it forward, what are some of the things that you are looking at from an innovation standpoint, from a technology standpoint, to do differently? And what are some of the things that you want to hold close to your heart and hold as the core?
Yeah. So even though the business has changed a lot over the years, going back, 48 years, the principles of our business, I think, remain the same. And that's the relationships that we have internally. And the relationships, to me, are an end result of doing things the right way. You can't just be nice to people and say your business is going to be successful, right? You have to do a lot of things. You have to be fair. It has to be a company whose values are consistent with the people that you want to work there. But you have to have good management systems. You have to have a level of empathy. You have to have all of these intangibles that often get overlooked for the sake of whatever profit, growth, efficiency, whatever. Um, but
It's a balancing act.
it's all one giant and that's probably why we don't just turn on a machine in the morning and turn it off in the evening, and that's our business. I'm not trying to belittle anybody in manufacturing. That business has its own challenges, but ours is the human challenge, that every day is different, every day is dynamic. You think you have something figured out and something else pops up immediately after that you have to go then address. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but it's always different. We have a saying, at Guardsman, you will be many things at Guardsman, but you will never be bored. You never.
Yeah, we say that at Proven too.
Right. And I think that's a good thing. So
It keeps you on your toes.
that is for sure. And one of the challenges we've had with growth is it's difficult to maintain that level of relationship and contact with your workforce.
Right.
And
As you expand.
as you expand, I mean, when we started with, Chairman was our first guard, and he had the first dog. So, when you have 50 or even 100 officers, it's easier to maintain a relationship with them. You get to know them all individually. Your office staff, you know all of them. And as you grow, it's difficult to just automatically maintain that level of proximity to them and the understanding that you have, and not just your understanding of them, but also their understanding of you.
Yes.
You're not going to meet everybody when you have 6, 7, 8,000 people working in your company as you would when you have 60 or 70 or 80.
Or 80. How do you bridge that gap?
And how do you get your values and your message across the board? And I think that's the challenge that we have as a big company. It's not that our values have changed. In that regard, I'm very similar to my dad, in that I believe very strongly that the strength of our business and the number one objective of our business is our people.
Yes.
Because, we have a guardsman officer downstairs.
Yes.
Your relationship with me doesn't matter. I'm not the one sitting at that desk every day representing my company and your company. So I have to make sure that I have taken care of that officer, so that officer can then take care of you.
Correct.
And I think that's the truth of any service industry, but certainly the truth of ours is, how do we know, at the size that we are and at the pace with which we grew, maintain that our values, our importance gets to all of the people who work here? And it's not just in Jamaica, we operate throughout the Caribbean. Now, how do we bridge that gap, as you say, to Barbados and Bahamas and Bermuda and St. Lucia and St. Vincent? How do we do that? And it's not easy.
Right.
So, um,
So how do you?
well, with great difficulty, firstly, but I think it's about having a level of consistency that as much as you can, everybody who you interact with, whether that's from a manager to a supervisor to an officer, a C-suite member to a manager, whoever, is that the principles remain consistent throughout.
Okay.
And it's not anything that you have to be fancy with. It's literally things like empathy, integrity, honesty, things that I don't think are asking too much of people to conduct themselves as responsible adults.
Core values.
Yeah. And if we can do that, it kind of takes care of itself, I think, in that, we set a standard here. My dad sets a standard. I have to maintain that standard. Then I hold other people to that standard. They maintain it and they hold other people to that
So
standard.
cascading.
I think it can't be me or anybody else traveling to every country every week
Yeah.
to make sure.
You have to
It has
cascade.
to.
You have to
Yeah.
cascade it. Okay. And what about the innovation part? Like, what are you doing differently or
So
looking at in terms of the future of
yeah.
your core business?
So like any business, particularly in the last 5-10 years, it's really changed a lot.
Yep.
We have always been really dependent on our work team, right? Our workforce, sorry. And technology everybody's scared AI is going to come and take their jobs, right? I don't really believe that's true. I think AI is going to change our jobs.
Yes.
Technology is going to change our jobs. And I give you a very simple example. A security officer at your front desk here, basically functioning as a receptionist, kind of logging visitors. There's technology that can do that. Now that officer can be used to do something else that technology can't do. So technology is very good at, being vigilant. Technology doesn't sleep. It doesn't need to eat. It doesn't get distracted. In the context of a camera, I mean, it doesn't need to use the bathroom. It doesn't, get sick. So let's let technology do what it's good at. And let's let people do what we are good at. And that's really the interaction between people. Technology can't do that yet. And I don't know that it's going to be able to do it in my lifetime.
Right.
So rather than replacing workforce, let's augment the job of a security officer. Now, again, another example. What if your job as a security officer was sitting down making sure nobody jumps over that wall for the whole night? It's 3:00 in the morning.
You're sleepy.
Yeah, you're bored out of your mind.
Bored and you're sleepy.
And you're just sitting there staring at this wall. No, is that a particularly fulfilling job? No,
No.
it's not. Do you getting any sort of satisfaction from doing that? No, probably not. Let's let a camera watch that wall, and with AI, we can create within the software an alert. So we simply draw, and this is not revolutionary technology. This has been out for a long time. In the software, we just draw a line on top of that wall, and it says anything cross this line. You send me a text, you send my supervisor a text, you send my manager a text, and you customize who gets those alerts. So rather than the guard sitting there saying, I hope nobody jumps over this wall tonight, he or she can then go and do something much more fulfilling and interactive and something that technology can't do. And then should somebody jump over the wall, everybody is notified and we can then respond. And again, the response is something technology can't do yet. So I think our future is bright using technology to integrate, and there's no
not replace,
because there's no system that is perfect, first of all, and there's no solution that is great using just people or just technology.
Correct.
The solution is always going to come from a synergy of the two, and that's really where we're heading, generally speaking. There are tons of individual examples that I can't tell you because they're secret.
That's fine.
But that's the general
direction,
practice, is let
and philosophy.
Correct. Let technology do what it's good at doing. Let people do what we're good at doing. And you marry those two, and I think you have a really good solution. But again, the most important thing in our industry is the level of service that we give. And again, not trying to belittle any other industry or any other company, but in our industry, people are trusting us with their lives, their properties, their families' lives. And that's a responsibility we have to take very seriously. So the stakes are really high.
Right.
And none of that is possible, no matter what you're trying to do. No technology, so nothing is possible. Not to do it well anyway, without the buy-in and the cooperation from your team. And that's where, our old school principles of dedication, commitment,
The
transparency
values.
come forward now to marry with the, new best practice globally of technology and labor coming together. But without that foundation of, a cohesive work unit, technology is not going to do it by itself.
Okay. Makes
A
sense.
little long-winded, I'm sorry.
No, it makes sense because what I'm getting from you is you're holding strong to your core values, those core values that you built the business on. But and it's interesting because I'd love to find out, are you getting any resistance to this augmentation, which is what you're saying, marrying the technology with the people? Have you been finding that either the persons who were there before, maybe your supervisors and your C-suite people that were there 20, 30 years are like, no, we don't want to do it this way. We just want to continue doing it the way we know?
Yeah, and I don't think that has anything to do with technology. I think that has everything to do with human nature.
Yes.
We're creatures of habit. We fall into a routine no matter what we're doing. And most people struggle with change to that
Absolutely.
routine, right? And we're no different. And it's not unique to any position, any function, C-suite all the way down.
Correct.
Everybody struggles with it. And
because I mean, it's a real thing that people think that AI is going to come and take over their jobs. So you coming and saying you're going to put that line on the wall, the God might not be fulfilled, but he may be scared that, okay, this AI technology that you're going to replace may eventually fully replace him, not augment.
Correct. And it's a legitimate concern. I don't belittle it at all. It's an easy position to take until, and I do think we have this responsibility, until I prove you wrong. Right? Don't take my word for it.
Exactly.
But whatever I'm going to do as an organization, excuse me, whether that's the camera, whether that's using, technology internally to augment functions, you shouldn't believe me until I've proven it to you. So let me prove to you that your job is going to be easier or better or different once we integrate. Data analysis is another easy one. We have more data than we know what to do with. And traditionally, it's been an individual's job to collate, gather, produce, and then analyze the data. Now let's let the technology collate and gather it. And then you could even use it to produce trends.
Yeah.
Let us analyze the trends now.
Yes.
And
let the people do the people part.
Exactly.
But you let the technology do that hard number crunching, etc.
And I think that's the key to adoption and to change in general is, at our core, I think most people are a little selfish. Like, what's it going to do for me? How's my job going to change? How am I going to be better off?
Absolutely.
So
or worse.
Or worse. So, and I think that's fair. And I think that's reasonable. And I think I agree that it's now my obligation as a leader in the organization to show you, to prove to you how you're going to be better off.
Okay.
And not worse off. Because if you're going to be worse off, nobody's
You're not going to get it buy-in. Absolutely. So. Okay. All right. I'm going to pivot a little bit here and ask you a bit about your love for the environment. and how that has manifested and how does that show up in how you work in your role now or otherwise?
Well, that is quite a pivot. So I guess it started, on both sides of my family, both my mom and my dad's side of the family. So my aunt, my mom's sister, Diana Macaulay, is, some people might know her, big environmental activist in Jamaica. And so she's my godmother. And she certainly had a heavy hand in my upbringing and exposure to nature. And on my dad's side, he has an equal, but I would say different appreciation for nature. He loves animals, and that's no secret to anybody. This is our new Guardsman logo as of a few years ago, but the previous logo for Guardsman Limited was a bust of a Doberman, a dog.
Yes.
And that's where Guardsman started. And then anybody who knows my dad personally, you go up to his house, there's all types of animals up there. I mean, I have memories as a kid walking around and there's just a peacock in the yard, Forget the dogs and cats, there's a peacock in the yard. And I didn't. It's just normal for me. I didn't think anything of it.
Anything.
Birds and snakes and all of that all over the place. So he always loved animals, and not always, he could never shy away from that. To this day, he's the chairman of the JSPCA, Jamaica
Okay.
Society for Prevention of Cruelty
Good
to Animals.
Okay.
He runs the zoo, and the zoo is I think hugely beneficial in terms of the education and exposure that it provides kids,
Absolutely.
especially in a place like Jamaica, where you're gonna go see a zebra. You're not gonna go see a zebra anywhere in Jamaica. Where you're gonna go see a lion. You don't run around and buck up a lion in Jamaica. So that exposure, I think, is hugely beneficial. But growing up, we always, whether it was just the simple things that most Jamaicans to go to the beach or whatever, we always had a healthy respect and appreciation for nature and our responsibility to nature. Because I do think we have a responsibility to it.
We absolutely
It's
do.
not gonna, it didn't get, just to simplify, it didn't get dirty by itself. It's not gonna get clean by itself. And how that translates to work, I think the easiest parallel I can draw is the physical environment that you work in has a lot to do with your mental state. And yes, the office must be clean and the AC working in a place like Jamaica, and the chairs working, and it must be a pleasant environment. But if you look at any of our offices, anywhere in Jamaica or the wider region, you go outside and there's probably going to be a pretty nice garden somewhere. There's going to be palm trees. It's going to be a pleasant environment to be in. And we think that's very important too. Not only does it look nice, but it kind of sets that tone that, you have a manicured garden outside. You come in for a job interview, you say, wow, these people care about that kind of stuff. They're paying attention to the detail, and whether or not you realize it, it kind of uplifts your mood being around nature.
It does.
So it's interesting because both sides of my family have this huge appreciation for nature. They show it in very different ways, but neither is wrong. Just a different perspective.
And how are you showing it?
I mean, I think the most meaningful thing we can do is to take care of our immediate environment every single day, directly around us. So simple things that, I might take for granted. You don't litter. You're not throwing anything outside of your car. You walk past something at the office or anywhere else, just pick it up and throw it in the garbage. And I think those little consistent behaviors spread.
Yeah.
And people see you do it, and they say, well, if he's doing it, I should probably do it too.
Yeah.
And then that
Lead
kind
by
of spreads.
example. Yeah.
Now, get into environmental activism, that's a whole nother story.
You're not there yet. You're not there.
But just those small daily interactions that you have, setting an example both at home, because I'm married, I have 2 kids, so I want to set a good example for them as well. And just think of what Jamaica would be like if people didn't throw things out of their car as they were driving. If we used garbage bins to dispose of everything,
Yeah.
it'd be a very different place.
Yeah.
And I think that starts at home, and I think that starts at an individual level, and it has to spread like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Nicholas is a private person.
I would say so. Yeah.
You have very little social media presence. Is there a reason for that?
First, I would say it's all relative. I have a lot of social media presence compared to some people, but compared to most people, yeah, pretty quiet. To be honest, it's not anything that I have consciously decided that I'm going to maintain a low profile. I think a big part of it is growing up with my dad, who was always very well known and relatively high profile, and anywhere I went with him, he knew people knew him, and he was always in that type of situation. And maybe a part of it is, as I say, you want what you don't have. So always being in a high profile environment, maybe I relish the privacy and relative anonymity that a low profile affords me. That, but it's never been a conscious thing.
Yes.
I like to, whether it's family or friends or whatever, I just
keep your circle tight.
Yeah. I mean, I always said, if I didn't tell you about something, I don't want you to know, kind of thing. So
good. So you don't feel everybody needs to know what you eat.
No,
breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I'm proud to say I've never posted a plate of food on my Instagram to this day. Very proud to say that. But having said that, I do try and live life in a way that nothing truly will be guaranteed to be a secret. So even though you don't want it to get out, sometimes things get out. Sometimes things that you wanted to maintain secrecy and privacy would get out into the public sphere. And So I try to make sure that whatever I'm doing, I'm okay with
If it does get a
people know. Yeah, if I'm okay with people knowing that I'm doing it, or whatever I'm saying, I'm okay with people knowing that I'm saying it. As much as you can.
Okay. All right. So I want you to talk to our audience now and just, I mean, you would have had this journey in a legacy business. You're driving both arms of the major arms of the business. And so what I want you to tell our audience is just one piece of advice, what one thing that really has been your guiding mantra as you've navigated and made it up through the ranks in Guardsman and Marksman that has worked for you and that has guided you.
I already gave you the one
Which
about if it's worth doing,
yes,
do it well.
yes, from your dad.
And I still remind you of that one. But I remember there's a quote I heard long ago, and I may not be able to quote it verbatim, but
That's
generally
fine.
speaking, it says, there's, and it's an old quote, so they talk about men, but same for women, is I'll say person. There's two important dates in a person's life. It's the day they're born and the day they figure out why. And a lot of people can interpret that to mean different things. My interpretation of it is that second day when you find out why you were born is you find out what your purpose is. And other people can say, well, how do you define what your purpose is? For me, it's simple. It's that intersection of things that need to be done and things you're good at.
Mm.
And I think that's your purpose. And when you can marry those two, when you can do something that you enjoy doing, you're good at, and something that's needed, I think it creates a very different perspective in your day-to-day goings on, personally, professionally, whatever. And I would, relay that to anybody who is young, old, whatever, because plenty of old people don't like their job either, and maybe they want to go do something else. Yeah, okay, you can say it's a position that privilege would afford, that a lot of people have to do things because they have to do them, and they don't have the opportunity to go and explore what it is they like to do. And I take that. That's valid and that's true, and I hope that everybody gets the opportunity to find something that they're good at doing, that they like doing, and that needs to be done.
That needs to be done.
Yeah. Because that's, that I think will change a lot of people's perspective on what they're doing. And, maybe you won't feel so much like you're working every day. Maybe you're just feeling like you're doing the thing that only you can do,
right.
And I certainly, not to say I'm the only person who can do what I do, but I have found a pretty healthy overlap between what I'm good at, what needs to be done at Guardsman, and what I enjoy doing.
What you enjoy doing.
So,
awesome.
And that is fulfilling for me. And I would encourage anybody looking at the camera, if you're able, try and find some marriage of those three things.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Nicholas. I mean, it's been really great.
My pleasure.
Really, really great chatting. But as I said to you before, before we wrap up, head into a little pulse check, the proven pulse check section, where you're going to answer my question with one word. Just one word.
Take
right?
Water first.
Take a sip of water.
Shoot.
A word that describes your brand. One word, 1 second.
1 second.
I'm just kidding.
1 second part. Word that describes our brand. Excellent.
Oh, great. The biggest lesson that you learned last year.
Biggest lesson I learned. Jeez. And I have 1 second. This is hard. Biggest lesson I learned last year. 2 kids is a lot more than 1.
That's more than 1 word. Okay, we'll give you.
No, but how are you gonna describe a lesson in 1 word? All right, perseverance.
There you
Perseverance.
go. There you go. 2 kids is a lot more than 1. Your current mindset now.
Onwards.
Onwards. Okay, we got that. All right, we're gonna do some proven picks.
I don't know what those
favorite phone app.
Favorite phone app. Instagram.
Why?
I think it can show you the most of what's going on in the shortest period of time.
Okay. Go to Kingston lunch spot.
Go to Kingston lunch spot. Across the road, Kaya Pizza.
pizza.
Yeah.
Kaya pizza. Okay. Favorite book or podcast? I think we talked about that.
Podcast, Tony Kornheiser's show. Favorite book is probably Angels and Demons by Dan Brown.
Okay. All right. This or that. Early bird or night owl?
Night Owl. ×2.
Relaxing on the beach or hiking snow-capped mountains?
Or relaxing on the beach, for sure.
iPhone or Android?
Android.
Android.
Never owned an iPhone. Never, not once.
Oh, we have people behind the scenes that are sharing. More than one.
Those are my people.
Those are your
Those are my people.
All right. Thanks again, Nicholas. I just want to recap for the audience some of the key takeaways from our discussion. I think for me, what resonated is that point about if you're going to do something, do it properly. Excellence, exceptional by habit. And that's what you described as your brand. And also the point about just knowing your purpose, what you're good at, what there's a need for, and what you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
So with that, I want to thank the audience for tuning in, ask you to like, share, and comment below, and make sure to spread the word about this Proven Pulse podcast as we seek to grow this community of really innovative thinkers and game changers. Thanks again, Nicholas, for joining us on Proven Pulse.
Thanks for having me. I wish you guys lots of success with it.